Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Seth, psychologist, and today I want to talk a little bit about a particular case that's in the news from a psychological perspective, and that is the case of Kouri Richins. I'll share a few details first about who this woman is, and ultimately I'll share a couple of points from a psychological perspective that I think are important. So, to begin, who is Kouri Richins? This is a woman who is a mother of three, and she and her husband lived in a small town just outside of Park City, Utah. He was very wealthy, very successful, and ran a successful contracting business. He died, and she has been accused of giving him a cocktail, a Moscow Mule drink, that was laced with fentanyl and killing him. Now, autopsy results showed that he had 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system at the time. And in addition, she told investigators that she believed that he had taken a fentanyl laced gummy. So Eric Richens died in 2023, and then his wife, Kouri, was charged in March of 2024, and then in June of 2025. There were more than 24 counts of financial crimes connected to her husband's death that Kouri was charged with. The trial started on February 23rd, 2026. Now, court documents and prosecutors refer to a motive that they assert is financial, that there was a financial motive. So, as an example, in January of 2022, Kouri Richins opened life insurance policies on her husband in the amount of about $2 million. Court documents refer to burner phones having been used by Kouri Richins and actual searches being conducted for things like this. If someone is poisoned, what does it go down on the death certificate as? And this one, how long does life insurance companies take in to pay? Those are just a couple of examples. One important note is that a housekeeper testified in this trial, and specifically the housekeeper testified that she bought and supplied fentanyl pills to Kouri Richins at her request. Another important note about this case is that according to court documents, a month prior to his death, that she had attempted to kill him by poisoning a sandwich for him. Now, we'll come to see what the results of this trial are in terms of the guilt or innocence that she is found with. But here's what I want to talk about, just a couple of points from a psychological perspective on this case. And the first one has to do with intimate partner violence that's committed by women. So, first of all, in the research, that is what the class or category of research is called, intimate partner violence. And among females who kill their male partners, the percentage of those murders that are not in self-defense are very, very, very small. So actually, according to research from Campbell and colleagues that's in violence, trauma, and abuse, according to that research, only about 10 to 15% of intimate partner violence murders committed by women are actually not in self-defense. So there you can see just how rare we are talking about cases where it's not self-defense, okay? Another point that I want to make is about the method of poison, so murder by poison. And actually, the same research, Campbell et al. In 2007, shows that poison accounts for only a small fraction of intimate partner homicides. About 5 to 10% of cases are murder by poison, and that is regardless of gender. But there is research to show that females do use poison as a method to murder more than men. Now, when it comes to looking at that actual method psychologically, what can that mean psychologically if someone uses poison? What's the difference between murdering someone by poisoning versus a more aggressive type of murder? So, psychologically, when we look at poisoning, it is obviously a much less physically violent person on person crime. It is stealthy and concealed. It is a non confrontational way of murdering a person. One could argue that using this method reflects a cognitive orientation, a cognitive style that is more oriented around control. And finally, another point that I want to make is about the children. So, this is a family that has 3 young children. And you can't rank situations involving trauma. You can't rank this as a traumatic situation that ranks higher or lower than another traumatic situation. All traumatic situations are devastating, and there's no question When there are young children involved, it feels especially devastating. Why? Because children who are exposed to traumatic events, traumatic situations, the loss of a parent, children simply do not have the psychological resources yet, the psychological defense mechanisms to help order their world and make them feel secure. They don't have those shored up yet in the way that adults often do. So children do suffer as a result of these kinds of major traumatic events. But here's the point that I want to make, though, about the difference when we, the public, hear about situations like this where children, young children, lose a parent. There is an important difference between feeling sorry for children and having empathy and compassion. There is a major difference between those two things. One thing that nobody needs is anybody feeling sorry for them. Sometimes when we feel sorry for somebody, it makes it seem like all hope is gone. But I think there's an important way to shift that and to feel empathy, but to say, although some of these traumatic situations are incredibly painful for these young children, that children too can be resilient and that children can still receive love from other caregivers. Although it is extremely emotionally painful and there is a loss that many children across the country, across the world experience when they experience the loss of a loved one. One of the things that the people around them can do is they can remind them that there is also hope for the future, that situations like this, just getting through situations like this, can help people build a sense of resilience. People can become more resilient ultimately as a result of surviving traumas, and it will certainly take children a while to get there. But the reason that I bring this up is because so much of the messaging that comes from adults who are around the children who experience traumas, so much of that messaging we can be mindful about. And so there is a way to hold in one hand compassion and deep empathy, real emotional attunement to understanding what this loss feels like to them. And at the same time, holding hope for the fact that they can get through this, that the world can still bring good things to them in the future. Okay? I'm Dr. Seth, psychologist.